Hi there and welcome to BaxEDM. 3 months ago I purchased a brand new CNC milling machine and a couple of days ago it finally arrived, so I'm super stoked about that. This video will cover a couple of things. First, some retrospect on my old machine and on why I even decided to get a new machine. Then on the reasons why I decided to get this specific new milling machine. Then I have some footage that I can show on how I moved the old milling machine out of my shop and made room for the new. And finally I want to close off with discussing the challenges that I faced on receiving my new CNC milling machine and on moving such heavy machinery around. So let's dive right in. Okay, a retrospect on my former machine, which was a Maho MH400E. And it was manufactured in 1986, so 36 years old. I purchased that machine 10 years ago from an online marketplace from a guy who had already done a retrofit to it. He swapped out the existing CNC control, a Philips CNC control, with a Dynamotion CNC control, which is a really nice modern CNC controller, so I liked it. So I decided to purchase the machine. And after I had purchased it and installed it into my shop, I quickly came to the realization that the execution of the retrofit had been done very poorly. The machine had a lot of bugs in it, software bugs, electrical bugs, all sorts of problems with it, and it made the machine unreliable and even dangerous. Yeah, dangerous. One of the bugs was that the machine would sometimes release the tool randomly, even when spinning. So that gave dangerous situations. So the machine needed to be overhauled, or the retrofit needed to be overhauled, I should say. So I did that myself. I dove in and did a lot of rewiring, changed the software, changed a lot of things. Also, one of the things that was really bugging me was the fact that Mach 3 was used to command the Dynamotion controller, and Mach 3 also gave reliability problems. So I switched to, on the computer side, I switched to K-Motion CNC and rewrote all the Mach 3 macros into C code. Basically changed everything. And then finally I had a reliable machine, a safe, reliable machine. And then I used that machine happily for over 10 years without any problems. In the end, things that started to bug me were the fact that the machine did not have a tool changer, and I wanted to step up my CNC machining game. So yeah, that's a bit of a hurdle then if you don't have a tool changer. And the machine was starting to wear, especially in the Z-axis. So when machining aluminum, everything was still okay. But especially when making heavy cuts in steel, there was too much play on the Z-axis, and that caused a lot of chatter. I tried to fix that by tightening the gibs on the Z-axis, but since the wear was not even throughout its travel, that wasn't really the solution. Really, the only solution was for me to get a different machine. So initially I thought, okay, I'm going to get another old German machine and then do the retrofit myself. Because I had been spending so much time retrofitting my existing machine. I learned a lot from it, and now retrofitting a machine is a piece of cake for me. So I decided to get an old German machine again and do a retrofit. So I visited a couple of machine dealers in Germany. One of the machines I thought I initially liked was a Deckel FP2, maybe a FP3. But when visiting these machines, I started to realize that the size was a bit of a mismatch for my shop. Especially the control cabinets of those machines are huge compared to the Maho MH400E. So they would eat a lot of floor space, and the decals are not cheap. With good mechanics in a good condition, used old machines like that cost somewhere in between 15 or 20k. So that's a lot of money. And then I still wanted to modernize them with a different CNC control. So that's also quite a bit of a time investment. So I was really starting to doubt whether or not going down the old machine retrofit path would be the right solution for me. And I eventually decided not to. So then the only option left is to buy a new machine. So I started to look into that. So I wanted to get a brand new CNC machine, and I had a long list of requirements for what I wanted. But there were basically two requirements that could fully decide my machine choice. First one was budget, and second one was machine height. So my budget requirement was that the machine needed to cost less than 40k euros. And the second requirement for the height was that, first of all, the machine needs to fit through my garage door opening, which is only 2 meters and 8 centimeters high. And then when inside, it needs to fit within the height of my ceiling. I don't want to make holes in my ceiling. And the ceiling is just over 2 meters and 30 centimeters high. So I started to look around for new machines, and with my limited budget, I could quickly write off any high-end industrial machine like a Haas or something like that. That's just not feasible within that budget. So I started to look around for the lower-end machines, and then there are basically two flavors. There's Tormach and there's SYIL. So I looked into the Tormach first. Liked it initially, started looking through the specifications, quickly came to the realization that it wouldn't fit in the height of my ceiling. Well, yeah, that's a bummer. So next to that, the Tormach also doesn't have 3-phase power, and I like my heavy machinery to use 3-phase power. And I noticed that the Tormach was really light. The Tormach was only a third of the weight of a SYIL. SYIL almost weighs 3 times as much. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then I started looking into the SYIL, which was a completely unfamiliar brand for me up till then. And I actually noticed that there were quite a few guys on YouTube making videos about their SYIL X7 machine. So I started looking into those. I will leave links down in the description to those channels. One of the channels is Nerdly, and another channel was actually by a fellow countryman, Alexander Bol. And they all make nice videos about their machine. Watched all the videos, and they were happily using it. They were recommending the machine, so I was like, okay, let's go for the SYIL X7. Big decision. So I purchased the SYIL X7, and it was only after I made my decision and after I made my purchase that SYIL offered me to sponsor my machine if I promote the SYIL Machine Tunes brand on YouTube. So for that reason, this video is brought to you by SYIL Machine Tools. Okay, enough of that. Let's have a look at how I moved my old machine out and in with the new. So the old machine was already on the pallet. It had been there for 10 years, already on the pallet that I made myself from hardwood. We used that pallet to move the machine into the shop, and now it was really easy to use the same to get it out of the shop again. So I detached all the power lines and the coolant lines and things like that, and then moved the machine over to the edge of the shop. I purchased a pallet truck with a 2-ton capability. The machine only weighed 1300 kilos, relatively light. And yeah, I used the pallet truck to move it outside onto the driveway. The tiles in my driveway are a bit uneven, so we quickly got stuck with the pallet truck. So I decided to tow the pallet truck with the milling machine on top of it over my driveway with my van. That worked out. We could tow it over the small ledges in the tiles, and we pulled it all the way up to the sidewalk in the street. I don't have footage about that because I was busy, of course, but here's an impression. So we towed it over the tiles all the way to the end of the street, and there you can see the machine. I'll do a walk around. There's the back. Sorry for getting my fingers in the view. Didn't notice that until after the machine had already gone. So the transport company for the machine came up with a piggyback forklift, which doesn't have a really high load capability, but the machine was 1300 kilos, so they managed. I had a bit of help from the new owner of the machine. They strapped the milling machine down to the pallet, and then the pallet was loaded onto the piggyback truck and taken away. So it's the morning of arrival. The shop has been completely cleared. I marked the floor with yellow tape where the machine is supposed to sit. Got a pallet truck here. So when the machine arrives by truck, we open the garage door, then we load it with a forklift onto the shop floor, and then with the pallet truck we're gonna move it to its final destination. The packaging is too large to fit through the door, so we have to unpack it outside and then take it off the metal pallet in order to get it inside. But really excited here. I've been waiting for this thing for more than 3 months, and today is finally the day. So the truck arrived not with swinging doors in the back, but with a lift gate, also known as a tail lift, which is pretty useless for unloading the CNC machine because the tail lift loading capability is way less than the weight of the machine. So you need a forklift or heavy machinery to get the CNC machine out of the truck. So when the door first opened, the CNC machine was all the way in the back of the truck, not like depicted here. And we had to move the machine more to the rear of the truck, like this photo shows. And that was the first problem. The shipping company brought their own pallet truck, but with a loading capability of like a ton or something. So it couldn't lift the milling machine and move it to the back of the truck. So to my great frustration, I had to use my own pallet truck, which had a 2-ton capability, while the CNC machine in its packaging weighs 2.5 tons. So I tried lifting it with my own pallet truck, and I could get it up, but I couldn't keep it up without keeping pumping the pallet truck. If I stopped pumping, it would go back down because the load was too high. So what I had to do was I had to drag and pump at the same time and keep pumping and dragging until we got the machine all the way onto the back of the truck. It was really stupid, but eventually it worked, and we got it all the way up the back, but not exactly to the edge, because there was a little ledge where the pallet truck wheels couldn't get over. So this is the machine that I rented. It's called a telehandler. It's basically a forklift with a boom on it. This is the thing I rented to lift the CNC machine out of the truck, and it has a 3.3 ton capability. So I figured that for a 2.5 ton machine, that would be enough. Well, it turns out it wasn't enough. So the front wheels of the telehandler were not allowed to drive on top of the liftgate because of the liftgate's limited loading capability. So we had to stay back a little and extend the boom of the telehandler in order to reach inside to get the CNC machine out. But when you extend the boom, the load carrying capability of the telehandler goes down. In such a way that even we extended it by, I don't know, a meter or so. And the 3.3 ton capable telehandler was unable to lift the 2.5 ton machine. So what we instead did was to drag the crate, instead of lifting it, drag it closer to the edge, even over the edge by a bit. Then we could shorten the boom, and then the 3.3 ton capable machine was just capable of lifting the crate. It was really on the edge. The most nerve-wracking thing was the fact that the forks of the telehandler were 1.2 meters long and the crate is 2 meters deep. So the center of mass was like teetering on the tip of the forklift. I believe the center of mass was like off the tip of the forklift by 10 centimeters or so. After we lifted it, we tilted it back. But yeah, everything was really on the edge. Very, very tricky. I would not do it again. If you're about to do this, then please don't. And get yourself extended forks for your telehandler. Otherwise, it's too risky, I would say. Here's a small overview of the situation. I wanted to capture the whole thing on video, but it was just a too nerve-wracking experience to also record this. So we moved the crate close to the entry of my door and started unpacking. The crate was easy to remove. So here's the front side. We unwrapped it. Here's the back side. Another back side. There are a couple of dents and scratches, but all very minor. Nothing concerning. Once the packaging was gone, we could slip the fork of the telehandler further in underneath the machine. And even with the packaging gone, you can see that the center of mass is already very close to the tip. So imagine where the center of mass was, including the packaging. It was really, really close. So yeah, my tip is if you're going to do this, at least get extended forks. We then unbolted the machine from the steel frame on which it was resting, lifted the machine up and removed the steel frame. And while on the fork, we shoved it into the garage door opening. Only had a few centimeters of clearance, so it was really, really close. And then when it was inside, we were able to lift it a bit because inside the ceiling was higher than the height of the doorway entry. And then we rested it on its feet onto a couple of bricks to give some clearance for the pallet truck. And the last part was the easy part. When the machine was inside, we were able to lift it with a normal pallet truck, or a 2-ton pallet truck, because we removed a lot of weight from the machine, like the packaging, the steel crate and the coolant tank and things like that. So we were able to lift it with my normal pallet truck. When you lift it, it doesn't have any feet. The feet are loose and not attached to the machine. So you drive the machine around without its feet. You drive it into its final position. And then you place the feet underneath the machine and lower the machine onto the feet. So that's quite easy. And yeah, that's how we did it. So we lowered the machine and then leveled it with screw threads in the feet. And then it was there, parked in its final destination. Super happy with that. So the machine is finally here. I'm super happy. It was pretty nerve-wracking, especially because the forks of the telehandler were too short. It was tricky. You know, I wanted to video the whole unloading process and getting it in and everything, but man, it was just I was just too nervous. So I just snapped a few pictures and voiced over it for this video. It wasn't my intention to do it like that, but yeah, it happened, and it's here, and finally I'm happy. So this is just the first video of how I got my machine, why I got it, and how I got it in its place. I'm planning to do a small series of videos of this machine. So yeah, installing it, hooking it up, making first chips, making nice work pieces, tips and tricks and things like that. So if you're into those kinds of things, then yeah, definitely visit the channel in the future. And that's it for this video. See you next time. Bye.